Hello, my name is Tommy Smith. This is my lesson plan demo idea for my technology class. One of the things I've been thinking about, more specifically with what type of lesson I would like to demo out for possibly using some more technology focused lessons towards some more digitally enhanced lessons, was one sort of addressing a film study I did at the start of the second half of the year with my 8th grade class, where we watched Dead Poet Society. We watched the film of the Dead Poet Society, and I had this idea of creating a digital anthology. This is to sort of focus on the 3 standards that you see present on the screen, using technology to produce writing, to conduct short research projects, to answer questions, and to gather information from multiple resources to create such of a project. One of the things with this idea is, with this focus on technology within my school system, we have a one-to-one technology system where each student has their own computer where they can create. They have access to many different software systems, many different technologies in terms of video creation and things of that nature, that I want to be able to use that in my writing and English class. So one of the things I started focusing on was, how can we take many of these ideas that were present in the film and translate those over into some form of a creative project? Well, the way that I decided this would work best would be to focus in on creating this anthology where, thanks to the help of some other classmates, give me more of an idea of focusing on an older text and a newer text, and seeing how those ideas are sort of still connected in some way, how the messages may be very similar from years past to even today, especially with a lot of things that are coming up in today's society where we're reflecting back and we're seeing history start to reflect back on itself and to sort of cycle back. It'd be nice to sort of bring this up, especially with a classroom as I have, where it is a majority of minority students, where they're coming from Hispanic backgrounds mostly, as that's nearly 80 to 90% of my student population comes from a Hispanic or African American background. So one of these focuses I decided to look at was using messages from the past and text from the past, and how are they going to talk about similar messages to what we have here in the current day. At this point in looking at this idea, this lesson plan that I created here, this will be more one of the first types of lessons I would be using. This would be a longer project that would take a long, about maybe 4 to 5 weeks to create this whole project, where students are working together in groups. At this point, we would have already talked about comparing text for the message, such as with J. Cole using the song Caged Bird and Caged Bird by Maya Angelou, and looking at the similarities between those ideas and how J. Cole has sort of mediated and sort of changed some of the ideas into more current, more of a current focus, whereas Maya Angelou's had a different focus with her poem within its current state of being written, as opposed to being sung with the music in the background as well. So we would have already looked at this and already learned how to compare text from, and learning the author's intent from those particular texts and comparing those. So what would happen is these students would be starting to create a at least in the first steps, I'll be creating an explanation paragraph that explains why these two texts that they are explaining and they're working through, why they chose that new text. So the three things that they'll be graded on is going to be looking at the claim, the argument that they're trying to make, the evidence using the ideas from the songs or poems to justify their explanations, and their conclusion. One of the main focuses within what I do as a writing teacher, we'd be focusing in on the majority of how are they setting up each paragraph and sort of bringing those back together. So that'll sort of be what they'd be focusing on. They would, within their groups, be assigned a poem, and with that poem they would be tasked with finding a new song, a poem, a novel, some form of text that would relate to that song. They could find articles, things of that nature, but in just some way they have to find a text that they can compare logically with what they were provided with from their poem. So the things that they would need their devices that they would have on hand at all times, and they'd also need a checklist, a rubric of sorts. Since I'm assessing them on these three different attributes, I created a simple rubric to give them sort of the checklist of what I expect from them, where in there they would state their group name, what kind of claims, does their paragraph include the claim that establishes their views on the two texts that they're comparing? Did they include evidence to support their claims? And did they concisely express their views in a conclusion statement? That would be more of the focus of what we would be aspiring for them to sort of reach. At this point in it, we would be focusing in more on just the small paragraph, the small completion, as we're going to build to the larger project of them eventually compiling all of their work together and us making a larger anthology within the class and having a larger video project and things of that nature. Similar to what I discussed in the demo, I've added a couple things. Again, they could use all sorts of different ways to compile their ideas as they start to move into a multimodal composition, because they would be presenting this to their class. That would be more of the focus of where I'm planning on this lesson sort of moving to. So that's sort of the broad idea. Overall, I'm really excited to see how this particular assignment sort of works out, to see if there is some merit in sort of the way that it's being set up, as this could be a really interesting, neat, engaging way to bring students into classic literature using means that mediate that line between old classic literature and the new literature that the students are shown and exposed to at this point in time. And so this is my lesson plan idea, my demo. I hope you enjoy. Please give me the best feedback that you have, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.